a lot of, I mean, they still can't become priests.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, so we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, they're still, I think we're still considered second-class citizens in my religion. And even, hopefully with the new Pope Benedict, I mean, he's done a lot, just recently where he said that, um, he does, I think, support women's rights,
Mm-hmm.
whereas before, no. And I mean, birth control's always been a big deal in the Catholic religion. Like, no birth control, no. And so it's changing slowly. I think we're taking baby steps, but it's I hope so that in the future it will change.
Yeah.
But
Describe what you learned as a child about how women ought to relate to men.
as a child, I was. Like I said before, I was raised to be a mother and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised to be kind of like a servant, even though I saw my mother. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she was always there for us and my father, and I saw kind of her serve my father, but she was always the stronger of the two. I mean, of course, my father was a strong man, and he worked really hard to support us, but emotionally, it was my mother who was a stronger one and who kept the family together. And even though I was raised to become a mother and a wife and kind of like a servant to my husband, um, she always raised me to be a strong woman. And it's now that I am married, I consider my husband a partner, and we're partners. And even though he is also a Latino male, and he came from a Latino family, and his mother raised him the same. So he is respectful. He respects me, and so we're. I think it's more of a partnership than before. Women, I think, were raised to be servants and just to um, to serve your husband.
What is your personal view of God or a divine being?
My person, I do believe I do believe in a God. Like I said, I was raised to believe. Um, I was raised through a Catholic church, so I do believe in Christianity. I believe in a God. It's important for my family, and it's important for me to raise my kids the same way, because I believe if you don't have anything to believe in, you kind of, to me, it's more like of a hope. It's more a hope, and I want my kids to have that hope. And so if they believe in something greater than them, well, then they have hope.
What has been some of the obstacles that you've encountered as a woman?
Oh, a lot. Not just as a woman, but as a Latina woman. It's really hard. I've always, even as I was younger, when I grew up, there was not a lot of where I grew up, going to school and stuff. In my elementary and high school, I think there was only like 1% in my high school that were Latinos. So it was really hard. In I grew up in the '80s, so we couldn't speak Spanish. I got in trouble because Spanish was my first language. So when I went to school, I couldn't communicate. So I couldn't understand. We couldn't communicate, so we couldn't understand. So I would get in trouble all the time. It wasn't because I was a bad student. It was because I couldn't communicate with the teacher. So that was really hard for me. So, and it changed me because now that I'm raising my children, because I didn't want them to go through the same struggles that I went through, then we taught them English only, English first and English only. So my kids are not bilingual. So because I would always go back and say, I don't want them to have the same struggles I did in school, and it was just for school. But now I feel like it was a disservice for them, because now I wish they were bilingual. I mean, it's important now that because I think society slowly is changing and we're more global. So they live in a different world,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be bilingual. I wish, or trilingual. I wish they would they know more than one language. So that is something I regret, that I wish I did teach them as they were younger, more Spanish. But for me, it was always a roadblock, and so I didn't want them I didn't want them to have the same roadblock. But it's different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did religion play a role in overcoming that obstacle of the language barrier?
Yes, because when it was funny, because there wasn't a lot of Hispanic families where I grew up, but yet when we went to church, there was a lot of Hispanic families because they were mostly Catholic, and so they would drive from other little towns, because I was raised in a little country, so it was a small town. So all the families from the other little small towns would go to the same Catholic church, so they would drive. So, oh yeah, it was different. It was kind of like home. It was home, yeah.
How do you define success?
Oh, that's a great question. I define being happy. I don't. It's being successful doesn't mean that you have a lot of. It doesn't have to be financial success. It can be any other kind of. I mean, some people do consider being financially stable successful, or even in your profession. But for me, it's my family. It's always, if my family is healthy and happy, and if I raise decent children, then that's a success. So it used to be when I was younger, people would say compliments to myself, and I would, thank you. But now people compliment my children. I think that's that's
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm doing my job. So I think for me, being successful would be raising decent children. Decent children, yes.
What makes you personally a successful woman?
A good mother, a good wife, a good sister. I do consider myself a community leader too. I give a servant leader. I like to give back to my community because I know how hard it was for me growing up. So that's why I'm a part of these organizations. Like I go back to the Hispanic Women's Network. We work a lot with young Latina women, and even though we are in 2015, one of our first sessions when we get to meet all our young women, one of our questions are like, how many do you know about college? How many of y'all still know about girls that are pregnant or drop out? And probably like 80% of our girls still raise their hands when we ask them that. And probably 80% have never been on a college campus. So I that's one of my biggest I'm really proud of that, to help them. And I do the same thing with my children. Not only my children, but I'm really involved with their schools. Their PTA president. I'm PTA president of their elementary and of their middle school. So I have one in middle school, two in middle school, and one in elementary. And even now in middle school, when we have college day, a lot of the kids will go. And of course, my daughter, they've been on college campus. They love TCU. My oldest wants to go to TCU. My youngest wants to go to Harvard because she wants to study law. And then my other son wants to go to MIT because he likes robotics. So we've always taught them that education is important. So they know about. In this past summer, I took my oldest daughter. We went to a leadership conference for Latinas, Manal conference, and we went to Albuquerque, and she was able to visit the University of New Mexico. We were able to meet Dolores Huerta. So my kids are. I try to just teach my kids about options, and so going back to when we had college day at their middle school, Northside, a lot of kids don't know anything about college, or they'll say, "Well, I can't go to college. I can't afford it, or I have to work," and so it's still it's sad because you're like, "No, you can go. there's ways, you know, you can get scholarships or you can go to school part-time, or we have great community colleges like TCC where you can go and work and then maybe transfer and get your bachelor's. Because I believe now you just can't no longer be successful with just a high school diploma.
Yeah.
I mean, now I think bachelor's is like an equivalent to a high school diploma.
Mm-hmm.
So we really have to push our younger kids, because I think it's too late when they're in high school. But if you get them like in elementary and middle school, then they know that the next step is college. So without even thinking, so now we're not trying to push them to go to college, but we're trying to push them like, no, what are you going to study?
Mm-hmm.
What is you're going to be? That's what I try to teach my kids. Like, no, you know, you're going to college, but what are you going to study in college? So that's the next step is no longer am I going to go to college, but what are you going to study? And that's
What role has your religion played in you achieving your successes?
religion. I think it has a lot, because it has instilled in me my beliefs and values of my of family, and that's what has made me a successful mother and wife and community servant leader, or what you want to call.
Yeah. Has your religion ever hindered your successes, do you think?
No, I think, well, like every other religion, we have good things and bad things. So I believe if you're a good person, you're gonna use whatever you how do I put it? Religion. Okay, there's all kinds of religions, and they both have bad and good stuff. But I think it's what you as a human being, your own personal. If you're a good person, well, then you're gonna bring out all the good that the religion has to offer. But if you're a bad person, well, then you're gonna bring out all the bad that the religion, whatever religion that you choose to value or believe in, you're gonna bring that out. Mm-hmm. So just recently, what has happened, you know, a lot of people are accusing Muslims, but they're not. They're not all bad. It's just the same, like the same with Catholics. I mean, we've had a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but it's what you choose to believe or value. It's your. So if you're a good person, you're gonna choose to value the good things and believe in the good things. But if you're a bad person, well, you're gonna use all the bad, negative stuff and bring that out.
Well, I think those are all.